christiangeekcentral.com. You know, Reed Benson says, Cyborg Superman had a great, crazed diatribe near the end of the reign of Superman, of the Superman film. I don't remember it now. That makes me want to watch it again. I did enjoy that one, not as much quite as the Death of Superman animated movie, but I still really enjoyed that one. But you saying that reminds me of what a great villain he was in DC Comics around the golden, what I consider the golden era, the pre-New 52 era. Jeff Johns used him in some big crossover events in just some fantastic ways, you know. He was, yeah, I really feel like Doomsday was not used well after this. They kind of brought him out just to give other heroes a chance to beat him up and show how strong they were too, you know. He only works. I think there was some comic creator that said this. So I don't think I'm the first one to say it, but Doomsday is good for one thing, and that's killing Superman. You know, it's in his name, it's in what he is and what he's done, and so I'm about to spoil the movie Batman vs. Superman, and so plug your ears for a minute or so if you don't want to be spoiled for that movie. But when I saw the trailer for Batman vs. Superman and they showed Doomsday in it, I was like, oh no, 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 no. Because I was like, you're not going to kill Superman in this movie. You're not going to do that yet. And don't waste your time bringing out Doomsday if you're not going to kill Superman. But then they did it. They killed Superman, you know. And it was great. I mean, I know that's a very contested movie. I'm sure there are some of you in the chat that did not like it. I loved Batman vs. Superman. I don't need to get into all that. But all that to say, that's what Doomsday is good for. And when you stop making him able to kill Superman, and he's not that terrifying being anymore, then he just fails as a character concept. But all that lead up to say, really, all the other characters that were introduced by this storyline, DC did some great stuff with later on down the line. Like, I feel like John Henry Irons as Steel really came into his own. Yeah, he's DC's Iron Man, you know, but ultimately he became more than that. Well, Iron Man is upgraded over the years too, so I was going to say he started using apocalyptic tech and stuff, you know, and was super upgraded, you know, but, you know, Iron Man's gone through a similar kind of thing, you know, to keep him relevant in cosmic situations. But no, I felt like they did some great things with Steel. He came into his own. Superboy definitely later on, and the Cyborg Superman, a great villain. Fearing that Doomsday might somehow reawaken, the Cyborg hurtles his body into deep space. I would say the one they didn't do really anything great with after that was the visor guy, the Eradicator, who maybe we'll see in this level. There he is. But the others, it was really kind of surprising. It's surprising to me as I look back and realize, oh, come on, where's your special? Oh, I didn't have specials. Do this. That looks sweet. Tell me that doesn't look sweet. And that is modeled after a very iconic image from one of the comics when he first makes his appearance. He's in like a darkened alley, and that's the shot right there, dude. That looks freaking sweet, man. Let's all take a moment and meditate on this image. Yeah. You know what I noticed during my meditation? Is that his S is not really an S. It's some kind of weird shape that kind of looks like the Superman S, but is designed to work no matter which way he's facing. Same with his back. They stopped in the movies for a while putting the yellow S on Superman's cape. and they did it in the Superman animated series too. I always hated that, and I think it became accepted by fans after a while. Nobody seemed to be bothered by it. I think even in the comics, they took away the Yellow S for a while. I'm not sure what the status is on the Yellow S now. The reason for it? Too tough to animate. Whether it's cell animation or CG animation, it was just an element that overcomplicated things for the animators, and so they took it out. And that's such a shame that the limitations of animation took away this element of Superman's design, which is such a cool classic element. I don't know if he's always had that from the very beginning, but I've always liked it. There are lots of superheroes with capes, and so I think you need to do something to differentiate them a little bit. You know, well, I guess these days there's not as many superheroes with capes. Back in the the Silver Age, there were a lot more superheroes with capes. And so I think that's just a nice detail, I think, does he have the yellow thing in Man of Steel? Maybe not. Or did they bring it back in Justice League? I don't know. The less said about that movie, the better, maybe. Although there was more talk, the whole idea of the potentially existing Snyder Cut came up again during Comic-Con, as somebody spent a whole lot of money to fly a plane over Comic-Con with a message, release the Snyder Cut, release hashtag the Snyder Cut, or something like that. And that's, that might just be one guy, and there were billboards too around the same time. Now, it might have just been one person with money to burn, or it might have been an organized campaign. I kind of hope it was an organized campaign, or that it's perceived by the powers that be to be an organized campaign, because I want that Snyder Cut. I want that Snyder Cut. I know it's unrealistic. I know that all the money that would be needed to put into that to make from scratch some of the visual effects sequences that, they didn't even bother even touching after principal photography. There'd be so much time and money that'd have to be put into making a Snyder Cut. But, at this point, we did get a Donner cut of Superman, and it took a long time. So we might be looking at that kind of wait, if ever. But at the same time, maybe there's hope, because we live in this age, which did not exist during the time Superman 2 came out, in which people are much more aware, fans are much more aware of what's going on behind the scenes of movies. We find stuff out. And so we can be more vocal about things based on knowledge that we discover. And so I do think there's more potential for a Snyder Cut to come around a lot sooner than the Donner Cut did. But we'll see. What I think will make the difference is whether or not, this could be a topic I could get on for a little while, whether or not DC figures out how they're going to make their movies successful. What is going to be their shtick. Right now, it seems like they're either floundering and they have no vision, no, vision for what their films are going to be like, or no unified vision, at least for the tone, or that is part of the vision. And they've pivoted in a way that said, you know what, we're just going to make these movies and have them be loosely connected whenever it's convenient, but other than that, we're going to let each of these movies be their own thing and not worry about telling some big grand story, And I think that's probably the way to go, because it will allow them to have the greatest variety in tone. Only now, in the upcoming Phase 4, is Marvel going to really be exploring horror, as has been reported with the upcoming Doctor Strange movie, which is going to lean into a horror vibe a whole lot more. Up to now, all of the Marvel movies have had a very similar tone. But if you look at comic books, at least I would say this about DC Comics, you have different stories, like the Spectre is going to have a very different vibe to him. And Batman will have a very different vibe to him compared to The Flash, or at least the Wally West era of The Flash, And I think you have to find a middle ground where they all work when you have them team up. I think they do that in the Justice League books. But you don't have to, and shouldn't have to, have a single tone that works for all of them in their separate solo movies. And I feel like that's what Marvel has done quite a bit of. And I would be up for drastically different tones in movies, in the DC universe. I think Aquaman was very successful, and so if they are going to go forward with a single tone, they'll probably try to emulate Aquaman's success in some way. But I'm really curious about this Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie. It's not going to be tied to continuity at all. It looks like he's going to be some kind of proto-Joker that the Jared Leto Joker takes his inspiration from, and, you know, got the idea of Joker being the Joker from, you know. So it looks like what they're playing with in the DC universe, the cinematic universe right now, is the idea that multiple Jokers have existed in the same continuity over the course of decades. The Joaquin Phoenix Joker was the first, Jared Leto is presumably the second. That being the case, and I kind of hope it is, I'm interested in seeing what they do with this Joker movie, because it is obviously going to have a much more heavy, serious, weighty tone. Heavier and weighty, kind of the same thing, sorry. And I suspect it's going to be very successful. Or at least it's going to be reviewed very well. That's my guess. I could be wrong. I don't know if I'll like it, but it looks like the kind of movie that's going to review well among film critics. And so if that's successful, that could then confirm to DC, yeah, we can have a variety of tones, if, in fact, that is what they're experimenting with. But it'll be interesting. It will be interesting. I mean, DC could continue to kind of flounder and just peter out and eventually just kind of die and try another reboot at some point down the line. Or they could get their bearings and build up steam at just the right time to capitalize on Marvel having less recognizable characters in their movies. Then again, I don't want to count out Marvel, because they started their whole movie empire with what was at the time a very unrecognizable character to a lot of people in Iron Man. You know, more people had heard of Captain America than Iron Man. More people had certainly heard of Spider-Man and the X-Men. With a wave of my hand, I could destroy you, Man of Steel. It takes more than power to be Superman. It takes humanity and compassion. I'm not going to try and do an urban accent, because I don't know if he has one, and if I try to do one, I think it would probably come across really offensive. Perhaps you are right. Go in peace, Man of Steel. Together we shall watch over Metropolis. Meanwhile, an enormous spacecraft appears over Coast City and destroys it completely! Spoilers! Destroys it completely, driving Hal Jordan insane. I must go investigate the destruction of Coast City. Seems this city has been completely destroyed. Oh man, Reed says that now the Eradicator has Superman's costume, but his skin is chrome looking and he has sunglasses. I guess I'll have to Google it. I don't know if that sounds good to me. Rugged Warrior says, does a Snyder Cut actually exist? That is the question. Zack Snyder himself has toyed with people by, and this was a while ago, by tweeting images of a cut on his finger. You know, basically the gag being Snyder Cut, you know. And he has also liked and maybe even retweeted some prominent tweets that said, we want to see the Snyder Cut, or release the Snyder Cut, you know. So, at the very least, Zack Snyder thinks this is something that could happen. That a Snyder Cut could be released. Whatever amount of it exists right now, it seems to be something that at least a year or so ago, he saw as something that could happen if people wanted it to happen. Let's see here. Rugged Warrior. It seems cinematic universe would work better if it's built up slowly and not rushed. Yeah, I agree. I think that is the more... That's the easier way to make it work. I do think, though, that if it's written the right way, you could go the other way. You could start with a team movie and then branch off from there with solo movies based on, you know, which characters are popular and stuff. But that's tough to do. What you don't want to do is introduce them in a team movie and try to put any of their origin stories in that movie. I don't think you should do that. I think you just ask the audience to accept that crazy concepts like these characters exist in this world, and then just spend your time showing us who they are as people, and getting us an idea of who their personalities are. And use your precious time that way, instead of trying to knock out a bunch of origin stories all at once, you know, in one movie. That's the wrong way to do it. And I think that they could have done that in the Justice League movie. You know, we saw Cyborg's origin covered in that movie, but I don't think they tried to cover anybody else's origin. And I think it could have worked, but I just don't think the... I didn't like how some of the characters were written, or how they were written in the non-Snyder cut, which I think really had an effect on their character. In particular, I had trouble with the Flash character, and I suspect that the actor who played him had trouble too, because they were having trouble getting the Flash movie greenlit, because he has the option to approve the script, basically, and he really wanted... He was tweeting and talking about wanting the Flash movie to be serious, you know, and really deal with some heavy stuff. And so I get the feeling that in the reshoots they said, we're going to lean on Flash as a comedic character, and that wasn't what that actor necessarily signed on for, you know. And it felt forced to me in that movie, you know. So I think that with a different script, that the Justice League movie possibly could have worked. I don't know that. I wouldn't say that I'm confident. I do think I'm confident that I would like it better, at least, than the movie we were given. But I don't know that it would be all that I think it could be, you know. I don't know that it would surprise and delight me in the way that Batman vs. Superman did. Reed Benson asks, Peter, how did you feel when they retconned Parallax to be a fear entity instead of Hal actually going insane? I was okay with it, I guess. I thought it was really... I never got over the fact that, like, this fear entity is called Parallax. When Parallax, that's like a... That has to do with, like, vision and, like, perspective. You know, that's a visual phenomenon. And that was why Hal Jordan gave himself that name. With the Eradicator out of my way, my goal draws one... He should have no lips. My goal draws one step closer. Now to deal with the Superboy. So, like, I don't know why the yellow fear entity would be called Parallax. You know, that doesn't make any sense, but, you know, you make a leap. I get it. I really appreciated that story. I didn't find Hal Jordan to be a particularly interesting character outside of Emerald Dawn, where they kind of rebooted his character and gave him a little bit more humanity and uncertainty and, you know, just some damage in his past. So, I didn't find him to be interesting as a character prior to that. And I thought that I've always been more of a fan of the concept of Green Lantern than any particular person wearing the ring. It's always, to me, been about the concept. And then just, you know, whoever's written best, you know? And so Kyle Rayner was my Green Lantern. They messed with the concept of the ring in ways I didn't like. But but Kyle Rayner was, you know, that was really my era of Green Lantern for a good while. Even though I still liked Hal Jordan because he was my first Green Lantern. I really bonded with the concept of Green Lantern through the Emerald Dawn story, you know, and also another story called The Road Back. But anyway, I adjusted and grew to like him as this tragic character. And so them retconning that was a bit of a bummer. But as I look at it, I'm like, well, there's no other way to bring him back unless you make that part of him somehow not happen. Because he went nuts and killed millions of people. Or at least attempted to. I mean, he rewrote reality. He did all kinds of horrible, horrible stuff. So you have to make that be not Hal that did that in order to put the ring back on him and make him a good guy again, you know. The only other way that they could do that would be to bring in the concept of redemption through Christ. That is the only way that they could, but so many people would not find that satisfying, you know. But man, that would be fascinating to have a superhero who had that kind of past, you know. But that for some reason people were okay with him being a superhero, you know, but yet he was still haunted by that past. I'd be interested in that book. You here to say goodnight? Okay. Oof. It's the Death and Return of Superman. Did you know I had that game?
No.
Oh, love you.
Love you too.
Sleep good, my boy.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Man, we have just like 20-some minutes left. Give some shout-outs, guys. Do you want me to continue seeing this one through at the time I have left? Or do you want Iron Tank, Batman, or Clash at Demon Head? Just shout out. You could shout out something generic like, I'm ready for a new game. You know, new game. You know, and we can figure it out from there. Or if you have something specific, shout out a specific game. Man, where Superboy ended up was not this obnoxious punk. They did some really interesting things with him. They leaned into the idea of him being a clone blend between Superman and Lex Luthor. That's such a cool reveal. And for him to be struggling with that part of his nature, and it's great stuff. And then just the journey they took him on with the Teen Titans. I really love Jeff Johns' run of the Teen Titans, you know. I really like what he did. I think it's maybe Nathan Norman, if you're still here, that didn't like what he did to Impulse in that story. Somebody I know doesn't like what he did to Impulse in that story. I loved it because I hated Impulse. Anyway. The streets of Metropolis are safe once again. Now to go check out Coast City, dude. There's an unspoken dude there. I don't have bad dudes, Joel Nelson. Sorry, I've got Iron Tank, Batman, and Clash at Demon Head. That's what I meant by shouting out. Shout out one of those. I remember Bad Dudes, though. I used to have that on NES when I was a kid. I think that was a one-player game, though. I don't think you could play that two-player, which is really odd to me. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Joel, you and your brother had some cool two-player games. Was Life Force two-player? I know you had Life Force, and I thought that That was a cool game you had that I always liked playing or borrowing from you. I think it was 2-player. I think it was like simultaneous 2-player. Rugged Warrior says, any retro games you want or get to play that you haven't done yet? I don't know. I mean, I could always go for some Batman. Love that music. But I'm cool grooving on this. It's been a long time since I've been this far into this game. Oh, gotta dodge falling things now. Oh! Whoa! That's a pretty cool pose, too, that's getting covered up there. That's pretty cool looking. That's pretty cool looking. They did a good job with this game, you know? I mean, yeah, it's a beat-em-up, and beat-em-ups are what they are, but this one, you know, as a beat-em-up, I think it holds up as well as any beat-em-up can, you know? I've also, in case you're wondering, and even if you're not wondering, I'm going to tell you anyway, I do have a slight filter on the graphics to smooth out some of the jagged edges. You might not have noticed because, you know, when you're playing on the old TVs that these games are usually played on, the image gets blurred a little bit anyway. And so, actually by putting on a filter, even though, you know, it's like, oh, it's manipulating the graphics, it's not true to the original, well, you're not going to get that unless you're playing on one of the old vacuum tube TVs. And there's multiple filters you can choose from on the Retcon 5, and I don't like to take it too far. I generally like to take it to what feels like how I remember it. You know, it's like, I remember it looking this good, you know? This is how my mind remembers it. Okay, Joel Nelson says Life Force was a 2-player game. Rugged Warrior says, well, if you play Batman, it's almost like it's a DC game stream. Did I play some DC thing before this? What did I play? Oh, The Flash, that's right. That's right. Well, I don't know, is that a good or a bad thing? We got about 20 minutes left. I started a few minutes late, so I'll go until like 9:05. Oh man, my lives are getting pretty low. Oh, what's his... I forgot to check out, let's see. My gosh, doesn't take much. Can't he fly? Come on, fly, dude. There we go. Oh, so he's got that blast, but it takes a little while for it to shoot off. I really like the pixel art, though. I mean, that just looks cool. A moment with that energy, you know, kind of generating around his fists, and then fires it off. That's cool looking stuff, man. Oh man, he doesn't give me a chance to fire it off though, does he? Alright, you know what? I'm just going to cheese this guy. Yeah, you are awesome, kid. Or not. Where am I? This is a really good adaptation of the book. And what's going on? Like, they really lifted... That's a panel from the book. You are in what used to be Coast City, now Engine City, and you are witnessing the restructuring of your planet. Dude, this is insane! You'll never get away with it! I must proceed with my plans to elect the second ancient city in Parallax. Goodbye for now, super child. I must find a way to escape. I've got to warn the world. Boom! Oh, he just incinerated himself. Well, you tried, Superboy. Meanwhile, among the polar ice caps far to the north, within the Fortress of Solitude, a being flutters weakly back to life. He's got the special lasers, too. Yeah, he definitely got some power upgrades. Because in the comics, at this time, when he was first introduced, he had this tactile telekinesis, I think it was called, where when he touched something, he could basically make it break apart. And somehow that got translated in this game into shoot explosive blasts all over the place. He really went on a journey in terms of his powers. He didn't have heat vision for years, and then he was given some goggles, or he got some goggles that basically simulated heat vision that he would wear. But at some point he got legit heat vision. He developed it on his own or something. I can't remember how that came about. Today in Mullet News, newsflash, a fifth hero has appeared claiming to be the real Superman. The Man of Steel has gone to investigate. Don't let the outfit fool you. I'm Superman. And I'm back. Just spent some time with Fabio's style consultant. How do I know you're for real? Hey, we've got more important things to worry about. The cyborg plans to use Engine City to take over the entire planet. Not if I can help it. What are we waiting for? Let's go. Man, this is kind of making me want to get into some of my comic books again. Scribbling Scribe says 2D and 100 times better than Superman 64. Oh, this game? Yeah, that's not an amazing feat. And I've not even played Superman 64 myself. I've just seen enough playthroughs. Gosh, this is late in the game before you get a chance to play as Steel. What's his super? Oh, that's cool. Yeah, so kind of like the original Superman's. And then he shoots rivets, I think, yeah. Well, it's energy blasts here, but yeah, that's actually pretty lethal when you think about it. Shooting steel rivets. Pow! Ooh, those look like Tron discs on the floor. Oh! What the crap? Alright, let's try this again. Oops, nope, not working. He's all kinds of grabby. Ah! Dang it! He got me! Hey, just keep coming! Regular Warrior says, I've always been curious, how did, there's a word missing there, maybe how did they explain Clark Kent disappearing and reappearing when Superman died and came back? In the comics, Clark was presumed to have died. It's very similar to the movie. He was presumed to have died in the destruction that took place around Metropolis. Or to be missing, at least. And then when Superman returned, they staged a reappearance of Clark where he had been like basically trapped under rubble or something like that for a long time, or maybe had been knocked unconscious and was nursed back to health by somebody who didn't know who he was, you know, and then he regained consciousness, you know, so they worked around it. And it's funny, I don't think the Justice League movie addresses, again, spoilers, sorry guys, I don't think the Justice League movie addresses at all the explanation for Clark Kent's absence, because at the end of Batman vs. Superman, spoilers, there's a little article in the Daily Planet saying that Clark Kent has died. Not that he's missing. I think I'm almost positive it says that, you know, he's fallen, he's lost, you know. So in a theoretical Man of Steel 2, I suppose they would have to cover that at some point, but man, what a sad lost state that franchise seems to be in. You know, I think, and now, you know, these actors, they only get older. Henry Cavill is only going to get older. You know, with movies like this, you have got to have a vision, stick to it, and crank those suckers out. And if you're going to deviate from your vision, you have to be able to do it quickly and keep them going. Otherwise, you're only going to get 2 movies out of an actor that could have given you 4, you know, solo pictures, you know, in addition to any other team-up movies, you know. Now, I do think, I mean, I've got all kinds of crazy ideas I could dream up for what they would do. Like, let's say that they don't get the ball rolling again until Henry Cavill is too old to really be Superman in his prime anymore. Well, I think there's room for the idea of a multiverse in which the Henry Cavill Superman is basically like the Earth 2 Superman. And at some point they do a reboot of the DC universe, but it's kind of a just kidding reboot where they keep the old Batman, the old Superman, they keep these old counterparts and bring them back for some kind of a crossover event. Now, Marvel could also get to that first, and I suspect that they will. They're messing around with alternate timelines already, and I think of the DC universe as being more synonymous with multiverse stuff. They've just had a lot more multiverse stories in the comics over the years, and Crisis on Infinite Earths was such like a mammoth accomplishment, you know. For those who don't know, I mean, you can watch my Essential Issues Crisis on Infinite Earths video to get all the information that I would share on that, but DC had been buying up all these properties from failing comic book companies, and the way they explained suddenly Blue Beetle and Captain Marvel, who's been renamed Shazam in recent years, suddenly being a part of the same universe as Superman, is alternate realities, alternate Earths. And before you know it, DC continuity was made up of, like, dozens of parallel Earths, you know? And so they would have these crossover events that eventually built up to and culminated in Crisis on Infinite Earths. So DC is, you know, far more in the publishing world active and has been over the decades with the multiverse concept. And, you know, the classic Crisis on Infinite Earths story, and also the follow-up, Infinite Crisis, years later, involved a story with both an older Superman, who was kind of like the quote-unquote original Superman, and the younger, more recent Superman. You know, I would be tickled to see something like that come about down the road, where Henry Cavill, you know, in his 40s or 50s, is playing an older Superman in a Crisis on Infinite Earths type story, you know. But that's probably crazy fan speculation. I think the world is only likely to be more and more ready for that, because nerd culture concepts are becoming much more commonplace. And so I think you could do that without worrying about losing your audience near as much today, and I would guess that trend would just continue. So I don't think it's at all out of the realm of even plausibility, let alone possibility. But we'll see. It all really hangs on if DC can figure out a game plan that's going to work for them and get them the response from audiences that they want to get. Instead of just pleasing the Pater Fransons and I believe the Adam Collingses of the world who loved Batman vs. Superman. And would have loved more DC movies to continue in that vein. Oh man, Rugged Warrior says, is this the same steel as the Shaq movie? Oh man, I haven't seen the Shaq movie. I forgot that it existed until he just said that. I mean, yes, in a sense it is, but in that movie, I don't think Superman had anything to do with his origin. I think they totally removed Superman from the origin. Which is really weird, but whatever. And I think his costume looked pretty ridiculous. Even at the time. I'll bet if you Google it now, I can't imagine what reaction it would provoke from the average geek today. But give yourself a fun time and Google that image. I'm sure it'll be worth it. Oh, that's interesting. Rugged Warrior says, I'd like to see them kill off a character, then have them resurrect as a different actor. So like Doctor Who style. Yeah, I'm wondering what they're going to be doing with Batman. Because there's a movie in pre-production right now, I think, called The Batman, that is going to be about a younger Batman. And it is not going to be played by, what's his dude? Whose name escapes me right now. Ben Affleck. And so what does that mean for the Ben Affleck Batman? Does he just evaporate? I mean, what's going on? Is this going to be a period piece, kind of like the Joker movie, but just further along in the timeline, but not caught up to modern day? That seems weird to me. I don't know. I don't know. I've kind of given up on hope that I will really enjoy any DC movies going forward in the same way that I enjoyed Batman vs. Superman. At this point, I'm just really super curious on a meta level about, like, what is their strategy going to be at this point? Boom! And boom! Boom! They just don't know when to quit. Oops. Tap, tap. There we go. Those rocket boots are cool. Yeah, you really gotta like just mashing buttons and smacking things around to stick with this game for the long haul. I could do with each one of these screens not have any like replacement enemies. I think it'd be a more enjoyable experience for me. It just gets a little bit repetitive when you have new enemies teleport in that you've already beaten up 2 times on the same screen. Yeah, I agree, Scribbling Scribe, who says, yeah, the DC movies always felt like they were simply trying to play catch-up with the Marvel films. Yeah, I think that, I know this wouldn't have pleased the majority of fans, or at least I highly suspect. I mean, it's always hard to tell what voices on the internet actually represent the majority, you know? Okay. That's 9 o'clock. I'll give 5 more minutes. I would have been interested in a DC universe where they stuck to their guns of having a more grounded, emotionally heavy, more psychologically realistic superhero universe. But I think they got scared. I think because people didn't like how people reacted to Man of Steel and the climax of that, and then people reacting again negatively to Batman vs. Superman. I think both movies did really well, especially once you factor in international sales. They definitely did well. But there was just something that scared them enough that they changed course. And that's when they started imitating Marvel, and it became like, I would rather they do something that Marvel fans didn't like, Marvel, that was just for a different audience, than to do a second-rate copy of Marvel movies, which is, I think, what some of them really became. But, I'm open. I'm kind of like... I haven't bought Aquaman yet. I think that, it's one that I'll want to have at some point, because I think my boys will really like it. My oldest has already seen it. But I kind of want to wait to see if it's a universe worth investing in, That's kind of how it was with me in the Marvel movies. It wasn't until Endgame that I realized, you know what, yeah, I do want to invest in this movie universe, and so I went back and bought basically all of the Marvel movies that I hadn't bought yet up to that point. Still making my way through them, as I prepare for Endgame to come out on home video in a few weeks. I don't think I'll be ready for Endgame right when it comes out. Right now, I am in the middle of Age of Ultron, which I enjoyed more the second time I saw it, at home. I saw it from a different angle that I appreciated more. And next I'll be watching Ant-Man. They're too late to stop the destruction of Metropolis. Launch the missile! And Ant-Man, I was kind of like, yeah, that was alright when I saw it. Engine City has just launched a missile heading straight for Metropolis. But I'm wondering if I'll like it more. We've got to stop it. I think a good chunk of these Marvel movies I've enjoyed more the second time because I've already seen it once, and so I already know it's not going to be what I really want it to be. You know what I mean? No sweat. The kid will handle this one. Reed Benson says, I want to stay for the end, but I've really got to go to bed. TTYL, talk to you later. That's what that means. Okay, see you, Reed. Thanks for coming by and keeping me company with the other folks. Oh, I'm supposed to blow these up. Okay. Gotcha. Whoa! Nice. I was like, where did I go? Oh, I died. Okay. Yeah! Level complete, because I am super. Our only hope of destroying Engine City is to get to the engine's core. But the city is powered by kryptonite. If you're the real Superman, you won't survive. I'll go alone. Good luck! Oh, that hair. Mike Tully, who some of you guys might know from, who plays Ran in the Spirit Blade audio drama trilogy that I produced, which the first one is free. The Legacy Edition, completely free at spiritblade.com. And, of course, the video version with text commentary also on the YouTube channel. Anyway, when I knew him in college, he had, like, Superman hair. He had, like, long, not mullet, it wasn't mullet hair, but, and if you've ever seen him in some of the, like, the behind-the-scenes videos, he's got, like, this big, strong superhero kind of jaw and dark hair, and so you can just imagine that he totally looked like Superman. This version of Superman totally reminded me of Superman in college. I just thought Mike Tully was the bee's knees. I still think he is. He's super cool. Oh, man. Oh, that's right. It's all kryptonite or something. That's why Steel is here and not Superman. Okay. Rugged Warrior asks, did you ever play the Telltale Batman games? No, but I don't want to say I've put it on my bucket list, but I definitely haven't ruled it out. I'm definitely curious. If I were to play a Telltale game, that would be the one I would play. For sure. Does it end, like, I know it's in episodes, but when all the episodes are said and done, does it end on a cliffhanger, or does it have an ending that, like, you can say, okay, it's done now, it's a done story? Because I wouldn't want to play it, because, you know, that company went down, so they're not going to be making another one. So if this one ends on a cliffhanger, I'm not interested. You know, that would be an example of, like, a story-type game that, I would be interested in for, you know, for its story, because that's what it's there for, you know. Oh, I can't use my super special when I'm in a flying level. Huh, interesting. Oh, man, okay, it's been more than 5 minutes. You know what? Let me finish out this level and see if there's any indication of a boss fight coming up, because I think we're close to the end here. I kind of feel like I might as well finish this out. Oh. Okay, I am hurting something. Boom! Am I hitting anything? Am I hurting anything? There we go. There we go. Meanwhile, far to the north, in the Fortress of Solitude, a regenerated Eradicator streaks towards Engine City. Oh yeah, I think we are coming up on it now. The Return of Superman. Yep, here we go. Okay, so you might be asking, what the crap just happened? In the comic books, Cyborg had Superman cornered, and Superman, wearing his black suit, was in a weakened state. He had not regenerated all of his ability yet, but the Eradicator shows up at the last minute, gets himself between the Cyborg Superman's energy blast and Superman, and basically converts the energy coming from the Cyborg into, like, a pure and safe solar energy, and floods it into Superman, kind of sacrificing himself, supposedly, or apparently, in the process. And so, like, in one moment, Superman goes from this weak, recently awakened state to being at full power again. But this doesn't feel like full power. This feels like full power. So I'm going to cheese this and get to the last fight here. Because I am Superman at full power! I'm always powerful! Because I'm Superman! And I'm awesome! Yeah, and the oh, they're called Warworlders here, I guess. I thought that spiny guy was from the Underworlders at the beginning. Well, maybe there is some connection there, I don't know. Yeah, I'm looking forward to covering in my Essential Issues series the 90s era of like Green Lantern and Flash, like the Kyle Rayner origin and early years, and Mark Waid's Wally West stuff. I mean, there's going to be multiple arcs. I mean, those entire runs aren't essential reading in my mind, but a lot of the arcs I would consider essential reading and enjoy going back and reading again. In fact, I'm kind of like getting ahead of myself, and just like in my spare time for fun reading at the end of the night while I'm sitting in bed, I have been getting ahead of the game and reading a bunch of Mark Waid Flash stuff, and it's been great. I did hit a little bit of a lull in an arc right now that's not super interesting. But I've really been enjoying, in general, that return. Bye-bye, Cyborg, who seems to die at the end of the story, but doesn't really, and comes back later. With a really cool costume design, in my opinion. You're the real thing, all right, dude. Well done, Superman. And I do mean Superman. The one and only. Amazing. What I've experienced defies description. Doomsday killed me, and the cyborg nearly destroyed the Earth. This would not be how I would voice Superman, by the way. The Eradicator brought me back to life and full power. I should feel tired, but I don't. I'm rejuvenated in a way I never thought possible. I have no idea what's coming next. But I know whatever it is, I'll be able to handle it better than ever. Thanks to that crazy thing the Eradicator did. Did you see that? That was nuts. Alright. That's it, guys. Whew. Well, thanks for sticking around. Rugged Warrior says, the first game ends with a cliffhanger, but they did do a sequel, and I think there were hints of a third game, but didn't have a cliffhanger. Huh. So they did a second season, or are you talking about they did a second episode? Because, yeah, I'll just have to Google that and research that myself. I'm not sure if I'm asking you the right question. Yeah, anyway. So there you have it, guys. Thanks for coming. The next stream that I do will be, for the next public stream I do streams every month for patrons over at patreon.com/spiritbladeproductions. I do actually, it's not a stream anymore. It's a Google Hangout. And I thought about having some of the $5 patrons join me on the Google Discord thing. I just had too much going on to kind of orchestrate that this time. But anyway, the next public stream I do will be Extra Life in late October or early November. And I will be recruiting for my Extra Life team in just about 1 month from now. Looking forward to that. I can't believe it's already coming up. It's crazy how fast it seems to come around every year. But looking forward to that. Thanks you guys for coming out and keeping me company and helping me feel like, I'm not stupid to set these things up and do them. It's always a little bit, befuddling and surprising that people want to come out and watch me play video games. So thank you very much for hanging out and being with me. And that's it. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye. Have a good night.
christiangeekcentral.com.